Krillin is definitely the character who has died the most in the Dragon Ball series. He's met his end a total of 6 times. In this video, I'll be breaking down each of those 6 deaths and talking about what happened, so let's dive right in. The first time he died was in the original Dragon Ball series. He was killed by Tambourine right after the 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai. It was a shocking moment because up until then, no one thought a tournament like this could be truly dangerous. But Tambourine didn't just defeat Krillin, he brutally snapped his neck. He was on a mission to steal the Dragon Balls, and he killed Krillin in a brutal way to get them. The most heartbreaking part of this scene is when Goku finds Krillin's lifeless body on the ground.
Krillin! He's gone. He's gone.
Both of them were still so young at the time, which made it even harder to watch. Even though Goku later avenged his friend's death, the impact of Krillin's death cast a dark shadow over the rest of the episodes. Alright, his next death is one of the most iconic moments in the Dragon Ball series. This time, he was killed by Frieza during the Namek Saga. After his first death at the 22nd Tenkaichi Budokai, Krillin managed to stay alive for quite some time. But when he did die again, it was in an even more dramatic and memorable way. We all thought the battle was finally over after Goku's Genki Dama seemed to have defeated Frieza, but out of nowhere, he survived and attacked again. First, he severely injured Piccolo, and then he turned his attention to Krillin. Using his telekinesis powers, Frieza lifted Krillin into the air and in a brutal display, blew him up.
Frieza, stop this!
Help me!
This death was particularly significant because it was the moment that pushed Goku over the edge, triggering his first transformation into a Super Saiyan. His next death happened in the future timeline where the androids caused chaos. After Goku died from a heart virus, the androids went on a rampage, wiping out almost all of the Z fighters, including Krillin. This death is particularly chilling because in the main timeline, Krillin ends up marrying Android 18, and Android 17 becomes his brother-in-law. But in Trunks' future, things are completely different. Instead of being allies, the androids are ruthless and cruel, and they mercilessly kill Krillin along with the other Z fighters. It's dark and tragic, especially when you consider how Krillin had a good relationship with the androids in the main timeline. Only Gohan and Trunks managed to survive, making this one of the bleakest moments in the Dragon Ball series. His next death occurred during the Majin Buu saga, where he was turned into a chocolate bar and eaten by Super Buu. In this saga, Krillin isn't as prominent as some of the other characters, and after he was turned into stone earlier on, he mostly faded into the background. However, there are a few notable things about his appearance in this part of the story. First, he's one of the early characters introduced in the saga, and he has a fresh new look. No longer bald, he's now sporting hair, which is a big change for him. Unfortunately, Krillin meets his end once again in this saga, and this time, it's while trying to protect his family and friends. When Majin Buu breaks out of the hyperbolic time chamber, he's extremely hungry and decides to turn everyone around him into chocolate. Krillin bravely steps up to try and buy some time for his loved ones to escape, but his efforts are in vain. Buu ends up turning everyone, including Krillin and his family, into chocolate and devouring them. Krillin also dies a couple of times in Dragon Ball GT, and while some people don't see GT as part of the official storyline, these moments are still worth talking about. Let's start with his death at the hands of Super 17. In the Super 17 arc, Krillin's death is particularly tragic. This arc isn't very well regarded by many people. Some feel it's one of the weakest parts of the franchise because it doesn't fit well with the main storyline and is relatively short. In this story, Android 17 is manipulated into becoming evil again. Unfortunately, he ends up killing Krillin in front of his wife and daughter. The way he dies is brutal and devastating because as he lies on the ground fatally injured, 18 rushes to his side. The moment when she cradles him as he takes his last breath is incredibly heartbreaking and shocking. His final death in Dragon Ball GT takes place far into the future and is quite different from his previous deaths. This happens in the very last episode of GT, called Goodbye Goku. The setting of this episode is a century after the main events of the series. By this time, nearly all of the Z fighters have passed away, and only Goku and Pan are left. In this future, Krillin is no longer alive, along with the other Z fighters. It's implied that he died of old age or natural causes. Although the show doesn't provide many details about his final moments, it's understood that he lived a long life and eventually passed away peacefully. This kind of death is a stark contrast to his other more intense and dramatic deaths throughout the series.